life's work, calling for freedom of religion. US Vice President J.D. Vance, who had met with the Pope just hours before his death, expressed that his heart goes out to the millions of Christians all over the world who loved him. Jorge Mario Bergoglio's journey to the papacy was unconventional from the start. Born in Buenos Aires to Italian immigrants fleeing fascism, he worked as a nightclub bouncer and chemical technician before joining the Jesuits. Rising through the ranks, he eventually became the first non-European pope in nearly 1,300 years, the first from the Americas, and the first Jesuit to occupy the throne of St. Peter, waving to the faithful as he was driven around the square, pausing multiple times to bless babies brought to him. His Easter message, delivered by an aide while he sat watching, called for peace in Gaza and Ukraine, condemning the great thirst for death seen in global conflicts.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buona Pasqua.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. In the description of the great nation that was to follow the reign of the papacy, as the papacy met the end of its great reign during the fall of the church under the hands of the French army in the year 1798. There was no other nation that rose in those times, and rose without the need of the blood and the sword. And that points to no other nation but the United States of America. Among the Christian exiles who first fled to America and sought an asylum from royal oppression and priestly intolerance were many who determined to establish a government upon the broad foundation of civil and religious liberty. We understood that the views of these persecuted Protestants, this people from the old world, found a place in the Declaration of Independence, which did set forth the great truth that all men are created equal and endowed with the inalienable absolute right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so we knew that the Constitution guaranteed and still continues to guarantee to the people the right to self-government, providing that the representatives that are elected by the people of the nation by popular vote or democracy will enact and administer the laws for the land. It no longer stands as a monarchy or a one-man rule, as the Pope was to the old world. In addition, as the beast with lamb-like horns was described as having two horns like a lamb, these horns, according to the meaning of Holy Writ, point out the power that it carries. Two great powers that gave America its power and renown. Those were the banners of Republicanism and Protestantism. America was a refuge of Protestantism. The very reason why the people of other places sought a new country was due to the fact that they were keepers of the laws of God who could no longer stand the oppression and the persecution of the Catholic Church in all of the old world. This was the power that shaped the nation. It was these Protestant ideas that gave liberty to the people. Conscience was liberated. The free exercise of religion was given its place in the laws of the land. There was no room for the monarch of the Romish Church, which is the papacy, the man of sin, the abomination of desolation, to dominate. But all of that had its time. For the enemy of all righteousness did not stand still just to let those who love the words of God and the people of God to prosper and strengthen. No, he was described as a dragon that was to persecute the saints of God at any and every given time. The Jesuits found a way through the country, and Catholicism once again rooted itself in the new country that was born and raised in the principles of Protestantism.
Il maestro delle cerimonie di leggere il messaggio.
Su di sé tutto il male del mondo.
These would be his final public words to the world. Just hours later, at 7:35 a.m. local time on Easter Monday, Pope Francis died at the Vatican. BBC correspondent Davide Giglione described witnessing people running towards St. Peter's Square when the news broke, some openly crying in the streets of Rome. He washed the feet of prisoners, embraced the disfigured, and advocated fiercely for the poor, migrants, and the environment. During his 11-year papacy, Francis redefined what it meant to be pope. The death of a pope triggers a series of carefully choreographed events that have remained largely unchanged for centuries until Francis. Traditionally, when a pope dies, the Camerlengo, Chamberlain, verifies the death by calling the pope's baptismal name 3 times. When there is no response, the Camerlengo announces, "The pope is truly dead." The pope's fisherman's ring is then destroyed, symbolizing the end of his authority. The body is typically embalmed within 24 hours and placed on a raised platform called a catafalque in St. Peter's Basilica for public viewing. Traditionally, popes were buried in 3 nested coffins: cypress, lead, and oak, each symbolizing different aspects of the papal office. But Francis, consistent with his lifelong simplicity, rewrote these traditions. He approved plans for a less elaborate funeral and burial. Instead of 3 coffins, he chose a simple wooden coffin lined with zinc. He also eliminated the tradition of displaying his body on a catafalque, opting instead to remain inside the coffin with the lid removed for mourners to pay their respects. Perhaps most notably, Francis will be the first pope in over a century to be buried outside the Vatican. Rather than joining his predecessors in the Vatican grottos beneath St. Peter's Basilica, Francis will be laid to rest in the Basilica of St. Mary Major, one of Rome's 4 major papal basilicas. This choice reflects Francis's deep devotion to Mary and his desire to remain connected to the people of Rome even in death.
Had its profound history as well. Protestant churches, together with the Roman Catholic Church, were united to form such a membership-based organization that would promote the unity of all the Protestant churches and the Romish Church as well. Not only in the United States of America, but also in the whole world. This unity was not something that was made on equal grounds with the rest of the religions, but rather, the Roman Catholic Church holds superior authority and position in the ecumenical movement, for it has become the way for the papacy to influence and confederate with the Protestant churches all over the world, and most especially that of the United States of America. To the eyes of the innocent and the ignorant, this is but a union, some sort of gathering. And this unity will lead to world peace and security. And to the common folk, peace and security are wonderful things. However, it must be carefully studied, for peace and security may be achieved by upright and righteous ways or by deceptive and destructive manners. Just as much as peace can be achieved only after bloodshed and compromise, the motive of this so-called peace will dictate to us what nature this world peace and unity it will be. But to those who understand the flow of the prophecy and the recent events of this world, we know that this is a confederacy against God. To ascertain, according to the Holy Bible, that the woman and the beast refer to the papacy and the United States of America, respectively, we will understand the meaning of the woman and the beast that the woman is sitting on. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Here was written the standing description of the woman that we could clearly understand speaks of the papacy. For there was no other entity in this great world that we live in, my brethren, where a great persecution of the people of God was made just to raise the banner of their church higher than the God above. But after this was the description of the beast that followed the leopard-like beast. It has been described here as a scarlet-colored beast. It speaks, saying, "And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. And the beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not."
The basilica sits in the heart of the city, accessible to all who wish to pay their respects. A fitting final resting place for a pope who constantly pushed the church to go beyond its walls and into the margins of society. As news of the pope's death spread, tributes poured in from around the world. World leaders, regardless of faith or politics, recognized the profound impact Francis had on global affairs. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen noted how he inspired millions, far beyond the Catholic Church, with his humility and love so pure for the less fortunate. Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of Italy remarked, "I had the privilege of enjoying his friendship," adding that Francis had asked the world for the courage to change direction. Vice President J.D. Vance, who had met with the Pope just hours before his death, expressed that his heart goes out to the millions of Christians all over the world who loved him. The Archbishop of York, Stephen Cottrell, remembered Francis as both a holy man of God who was also very human, witty, lively, good to be with. In the coming days, the College of Cardinals will gather in Rome to elect Francis's successor in a process known as the Conclave. After a 9-day mourning period, the Cardinals will enter the Sistine Chapel, where they will remain sequestered until they elect a new pope by a 2/3 majority. When a decision is reached, white smoke will billow from the chapel's chimney, and the famous announcement, "Habemus Papam," "We have a pope," will ring out across St. Peter's Square.